Today, I want to talk about Parseltongue.
Parseltongue.
Yes, do you know what this is?
Is this being able to talk to animals? Or a
It's
specific
being able
animal?
to talk to a specific animal, yes.
To snakes?
To snakes, exactly.
Yeah.
You got it.
All right.
Yes. Although technically Parseltongue is the language of serpents, and also similar beasts like basilisks that we already talked about.
Okay. Yeah.
And someone who can speak Parseltongue is a parcel mouth.
Okay.
Yes, that's the term. So
Yeah.
just want to set that straight right off the bat.
So being able to speak it means you can also understand it when the snake is speaking.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. So is this something that you can learn, or is this something you're kind of born with?
This is something you're born with. It's passed down through families. I'll talk a little bit more about that.
Okay, sorry, I'm getting ahead of ourselves here.
That's all right. That's all right. I thought I'd get right into the etymology today.
Yes, it sounds like an interesting word.
Yeah. So, parcel, P-A-R-S-E-L, according to J.K. Rowling, she said it was an old word for someone who has a problem with the mouth, like a hair lip. So, a hair lip, you know what that is?
Well,
It's
I
also
don't know.
sometimes called a cleft lip or a cleft palate. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So yes, something kind of like you're born with a kind of a gap in your top upper lip usually.
Yeah, usually it's the hair lip or cleft lip is usually a gap in your upper lip, or a cleft palate is like a gap in the upper roof of your mouth. Mm-hmm. So it's just a malformation that can happen, and these days it can be fixed with surgery. Mm-hmm. So if this word parcel comes from this split in the lip, it's kind of like the fork in a snake's tongue, right?
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And actually, in the French translation of the books, parcel mouth translates to, see if I can say this correctly, Forseltongue, which literally means forked tongue.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And J.K. Rowling was fluent in French. She had a degree in French literature. So I don't know if she specifically chose that for the French translation, but she was probably at least consulted.
Yeah.
So that makes me think that this was her reasoning, was that it's meaning like a problem with your mouth, like a forked tongue, like a snake.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, that's cool.
Mm-hmm. You can also do that. Parseltongue comes from the Latin pars, P-A-R-S, which means part, so divided into parts, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Or the English word parse, P-A-R-S-E, which means to divide a sentence into its grammatical parts or symbols for syntactical analysis. So both of those come from the same Latin root. So it's basically dividing into parts. So it could be, relating to dividing the tongue into two parts like a snake, or, tongue is also a word for a language. So breaking down the language of snakes to be able to communicate or understand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like you were saying, this is a very rare ability. And in fact, really only Voldemort and Harry are the known parcel mouths in this universe. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like we said before, it can't be learned. It's just inherited genetically. And actually, even Harry doesn't even know that he's speaking it at first. You remember?
Yeah, I'm vaguely remembering. Are they in like a class and a snake? What's that called?
You're like, I have these vague memories, but I don't really know.
Yeah, well, he was like, it's like a defense against the dark arts class. I'm picturing, and there's a snake coming after him or someone else, and Harry doesn't even realize that he's actually speaking Parseltongue, but he talks the snake down or something.
Yeah, you're very close. It was the dueling club.
Okay,
and the person that he's dueling creates a snake out of their wand. And it starts to go for one of the kids watching. And he just goes over and tells it to stop. And it does. But he's unintentionally speaking Parseltongue, and all the kids think he's egging it on. Yes. So, and that's not the first time that he speaks Parseltongue, actually, but it's the first time he realizes it.
Oh.
Because in the first book, he speaks to the snake at the zoo when he goes there with the Dursleys.
Right. I remember, that when he's like first kind of learning his magical powers, so that he has like these weird powers and he lets some animals free kind of thing. And
exactly. Yeah.
But I remember the snake in the movie being, basically like, thanks for letting me out kind of thing.
Yeah. Says, thanks, amigo. Yep.
Yeah.
So it can't be learned, but, well, I guess it kind of can be. It's definitely inherited genetically, but like not in the books, but J.K. Rowling has said that Dumbledore can understand Parseltongue and that he can repeat phrases accurately. But perhaps maybe it's kind of unclear if he actually can speak it. There's a kind of a difference I've learned, with learning languages and speaking Swedish, that it's a lot easier to understand than to summon up the words yourself to speak,
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So
I will second that. I always understood basic, Swedish. And then to this day, I mean, I can vaguely understand a lot of Spanish sentences, but I have no idea how to reply in Spanish.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like that's kind of the deal with Dumbledore. But it's not in the books, again. It's just something that J.K. Rowling has said. Although what is in the books is, in the last one, Ron uses Parseltongue to open the Chamber of Secrets to get a basilisk fang to destroy one of the Horcruxes. Oh. But it's said that he doesn't really speak it. He's imitating what he heard Harry say when they went in before. So he doesn't really know what he's saying. He's just trying to be as accurate as possible as to what the sounds that Harry made, and it works.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, Voldemort is probably the most famous parcel mouth. And actually, it's all in his whole entire family line on his mother's side, because you remember his ancestor on that side was Salazar Slytherin. And he was a Parselmouth. So all of that side of the family speak it, and they actually, in fact, speak it between themselves, kind of as a secret language other people can't understand.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
So because of this, and because the only other real person known to be a Parselmouth was Herpo the Fowl, you remember him?
I remember Herpo, yeah. He's the guy that figured out how to create a basilisk,
exactly,
right?
Yes.
Yes.
So
check out our basilisk episode if you haven't already.
Definitely. More on Herpo in that one. Yeah. So he was also a Parselmouth, and he was also a dark wizard. So there's kind of this feeling that if you're a Parselmouth, you're bad. It's a sign of a dark wizard. So, we talked about how when people find out that Harry's a Parselmouth, they really are afraid of him or don't want to believe him. It's one of the things that contributes to people not believing that Voldemort's back when he tells the world what happened to him. Because, Rita Skeeter has written this article that says he can talk to snakes, and people are like, oh boy, that's evil. We can't trust anything he says. So here's my question. Do you think that, this is just a prejudice, or if it's justified, because Harry's really the only known non-dark wizard to be a Parselmouth. So is he like the exception that proves the rule? Do you think this is justified prejudice?
There's two ways to look at it. I feel like any pattern can be broken. And so I don't feel like it's right to automatically judge someone just because they fall into a pattern out of that they're not in control of, you know. You're born a certain way and you can do something that's not in your control, and sucks that other people who also have that trait were not the greatest people, but you would hope that most people I guess it's very parallel to what happens a lot in the real world here, that, you hear a foreign language and depending on your background or where you're from or how you grew up, you can hear certain things or certain accents or something triggers a bias or a prejudice. And it's never fair to just have a blanket statement. Well, everyone who is like this is bad, or
Yeah.
But historically speaking, and very much so still today, that's what happens normally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a big difference between what happens and what's right. Yeah.
Yes. Very big difference. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I agree with you there.
Okay. Phew. Yeah. Well, I have a question for you.
Ooh, okay.
I'm putting you on the spot here as the Harry Potter expert.
Yikes.
Do you know of any other animals who have a language like this that wizards can speak? Or is it specifically Parseltongue and snakes?
I think that Parseltongue is the only one that's named, but, wizards definitely do communicate with animals in other ways. But I think it's often more a case of the animal understands English rather than they're speaking another language to the animal,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I kind of assumed. It seemed like a unique thing that maybe was brought in as a plot point rather than, pre-thought of in the wizarding world and how wizards, communicate with animals and stuff like that.
So yeah, that's Parseltongue.
Parseltongue, cool, yeah. Well, I definitely would never have made the connection between Parseltongue and the split in a snake's tongue, or the connections to a cleft palate or anything like that, cleft lip. So that's very interesting, and I can definitely see how that was kind of inspiring. And maybe it makes sense too that those who can speak Parseltongue are oftentimes looked at as different, and unfortunately, those who are born with a cleft lip or cleft palate or any sort of, well, I guess what people would call an abnormality or whatever, are also oftentimes looked at differently for no fault of their own and for no real valid reason.
Yeah, definitely.
You look different, you're speaking a different language, you sound different, whatever it is.
Doesn't mean you're any less of a person.
Exactly. Yeah. So I wonder if that kind of tied into what she called Parseltongue, but also why Harry specifically is maybe one of the only quote unquote good wizards that can speak it, to kind of break the break that precedent that everyone who has this is bad or different.
Yeah, that's interesting when you say it that way, because although Harry is this exception as a non-dark wizard that speaks Parseltongue, but the reason he speaks Parseltongue, he didn't inherit it from his family. It happened when Voldemort tried to kill him, and it part of his soul went into Harry, and that's how it kind of filtered in that he could speak Parseltongue.
Yeah.
So it's, it is this exception or this breaking of the stereotype, but it is slightly different. So yeah, it's kind of interesting that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Yeah, so this is just one of the spells or magical abilities that we're going to be talking about on Potterdems, along with, of course, other people and objects and creatures and places. So if you want to learn more, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. You can also find us online. We're on Facebook and Instagram at Potterdems.
Yeah, and if you're a super fan of what we're doing here and want to, get a little bonus content, some blooper reels, extra stuff like that, you can check us out over on Patreon, patreon.com/Potterdems.
Yeah, and be sure to share us with all your friends who are also Potterheads. Well, until next time, I'm Al.
And I'm Erik.
And this has been Potterdems.